On the show last week, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday, we had the debate, or at least asked the question, if the Browns are going to extend one of Amari Cooper or JOK, who do you think is more likely to get an extension? And we now know how the Amari Cooper contracts played out. It was a raise, not an extension. And Jason, you were on the panel with me the day we had this discussion. How do you think Cooper's non-extension / raise, whatever you want to call it, his new deal, impacts however the Browns and JOK negotiate a potential new deal for their Pro Bowl linebacker?
I don't think there's any relation at all. I don't think they're connected. I think they're two completely separate issues, two totally different players, different positions, different ages, different stages of their career. And really it's the fact that JOK plays a position that isn't really emphasized in this defense. So I don't know that they're going to commit the type of dollars that he could probably command somewhere else if it's the least important part of the defense. So I hope he's here long term. You know, we both said, I think all three of us, it was you, me, and Tyvis, and we all said we'd rather have Amari Cooper on the team just because of the talent and the position that he plays. But if we're being realistic, the one who's probably more likely to get an extension is JOK just based on age. I still think that's true, but I don't think that them not doing anything with Amari is any sort of tell as to what's going to happen there. I don't think that they're related at all.
Like, or we talk about it all the time, man. You got two daughters, right? And you try to have the same relationship with them. You love them the same, but the way you communicate with them is different. The way you interact with them, because they're two different individuals. And I think it kind of goes to that point when you talk about JOK or anybody else comparing money when it comes to JOK and Amari Cooper or who's going to get paid next. It's two different circumstances, right? You know, especially given the fact that JOK traditionally, I don't think the linebacker position was a position that they really coveted, but I think JOK's skill set is so different that they saw what he was able to do to kind of transform the defense into something that was a monster last year. And I think it'll depend a lot on what Jim Schwartz has some input on that. You know, this defense plays a certain way. They play fast. They play physical. They let him play sideline to sideline, which gives them that kind of Swiss Army knife when it comes to, kind of defending some of these running backs out of the backfield like Christian McCaffrey and running around trying to, find Lamar Jackson. So in this case, I would normally say linebacker position isn't something that they would pay for, but his skill set is so unique.
Absolutely.
I could see them saying this is a different case.
All right, so I think you both did an outstanding job of laying out the football side of things. But the longer that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski sticks around, I think we learn what type of men they are. And they care about the people that's inside that locker room as men first. I think you could stamp
for
that,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at the mantra of this Cleveland Browns organization and how the culture has shifted since Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski took over, JOK fits the culture. Right? Smart, tough, accountable. He's a dude that you could depend on. He's not somebody that you're really worried about, getting in trouble. If you think about that blowout playoff loss against the Houston Texans, who was the only guy that we could look to and didn't point the finger at? It was JOK.
He played his tail off.
He showed up and he played his ass off despite the score, despite what was going on. He played with that same high level of intensity, etc. You finally get a coordinator in here and, position coaches in here that was able to unlock his skill set and display the athleticism, the knowledge of the game, and just being able to play conscious, react-free football. But I think when it comes to who he is as a person, how hard he's willing to work, just him fitting everything that the Cleveland Browns is trying to turn this franchise into. I hear Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry talk about we don't just want to help them grow as football players, but we want to help them capitalize on who they are as men. And if we can help develop good men better than good football players, then we feel like we've done their job since we've been here. Jock is a good dude. He's been through a lot, and he didn't let that stop him from showing up and giving his best effort every single day. What kind of message does that send if you don't reward those type of people? And if you have that type of person and the play on the field can match that, then hell yeah, you make sure you break them off a nice piece of change.
Let me ask y'all this. just not even playing devil's advocate, but giving another side of the reality of football. JOK plays a position where they kind of made him a unique position, right? It's not the traditional linebacker position that you would see any other team playing. And one of the reasons he's so dynamic is because he's undersized. He's almost like a safety or a bandit / linebacker player. Do you think that durability is one of the considerations that will go into a contract? When you got an undersized linebacker who plays the way he plays, he was banged up his first couple of years. Do you think that they're like, okay, well, yes, we want to give you some money, but we also have to look at the way you play the game and look at your stature and say, are you going to be able to be durable enough to finish your career in the same way that you started it?
Yeah, I think injury concerns are always a factor in this stuff. And to piggyback off Earl, he's also crazy intelligent. JOK is highly, highly, highly intelligent. I think he's one of those guys that can identify scheme. Like, he's everything you want in a player. And I do think, hopefully, that there's common ground. If he has another year like he had last year, you have to have a conversation with him. Like, you have to have a conversation and see if you can find middle ground. Maybe not paying top of the market for linebackers, because I don't know that they'll do that, but just see where he's at and what he's comfortable taking. But also, you could become a victim of your own success and say, well, if we found him, we can find his replacement too in the draft. Like, so there's that goes into it. That's part of it as well. Ultimately, I would like to see him here. Like, I'll make sure I get this across. I hope he signs long term. I hope he stays here, because he is in that age range where you can build around this guy and you can have him on the team for the next 3, 4, 5 years, where he'd be a highly productive player still. I just don't know. I think this year will tell us a lot in terms of where that's going to go.
Now, in terms of this, McNuggets, I'm looking at this, right? You can kind of fact check this a little bit, but you look at the average salary for 2024 highest paid linebackers. Roquan Smith is getting $20 million a year. Fred Warner's getting $19 million a year. Tremaine Edmonds is at $18. Then you get Matt Milano at $14.2. Patrick Queen at $13.6.
If he has
those are the top 5 guys.
Those are the top 5s.
If he has another year like he had last year, he's in that 18 million range. He is. Right? Am I nuts?
I don't think
he's
so.
a better player than Tremaine Edmonds, and Edmonds got essentially a 4-year, $20 million annual, 18 annual, whatever. It changes year by year, but 18 annual average salary. He's right in that conversation. That would put him in the top 3, 4 of all linebackers in football. And are you willing to pay a linebacker that much money when you have a defensive line that's expensive and a secondary and a guy like MJ Emerson and potentially Greg Newsome that need new deals as well? It's a good problem to have.
It's a very and you know what? I think a lot of people get to this point where they are now, guys, and we just haven't been here. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't, you go back to the 80s, and I don't think we followed the game with the cap and different things.
Well, it's a totally different game
totally
than it
different
was
game,
40 years
right?
ago.
I don't think we've ever been to a point where we've had to seriously look at 2 players that we were like, hey, this guy's a Pro Bowler, this guy's a Pro Bowler. Which one do you want?
Right.
You're like, what you mean what pair of Jordans I want? I want all the Jordans. Like we, for the first time, are now having to make decisions about guys who are on their second deal and looking to get paid. So this is going to be it's going to be funny how they choose. And
I think another element to this is having Jordan Hicks a part of this team this year. Somebody that knows this scheme, somebody that's been with Jim Schwartz before, somebody that's won a Super Bowl. Jason just said, JOK is highly intelligent. And so I wonder how much he picks up from Hicks while Hicks is here, because if JOK can turn into that dude who's wearing that green dot, then that changes the conversation completely, I think. Because when you mention guys like Fred Warner, well, yeah, Fred Warner, he wears the green dot, and just like here in Cleveland, their front 4 makes everything happen for him on that second level and third level, et cetera. So I think just having Jordan Hicks this year on that 1-year deal and seeing how much, he can learn and pick up from him, I think it'll go a long way of helping him secure a bag. And then I think the Cleveland Browns also prioritize making sure he's a part of this team a little bit more. You have the same situation, in my opinion, on that side of the ball that you do with the offensive side of the ball. You got two guys here on a 1-year contract. Well, Hicks is here on a 1-year contract. We're assuming that this is going to be Cooper's last year, and they're expected to produce and teach at the same time. So we'll just have to see how this all really work itself out.
I'm going to ask y'all in the chat. I'm going to throw this out to y'all. Y'all can answer this question really quickly. If you got to pick one person, JOK, MJ Emerson, or Greg Newsome to sign long-term, who would it be?
You said
I'll put
what?
that in the chat. We'll get those answers. I do want to remind people we have another Browns topic coming up. We have